Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here with a bit of a Dino Fury slash comics theory video. So if you don't know, in Dino Fury, the Morphin Masters made a surprise appearance, and I did a whole video explaining sort of the Morphin Masters and what we know so far. It'll probably be linked in here at some point, so you can check that out. I don't want to repeat that whole video, but just for a quick little summation of that in case you don't want to watch that right now, basically the Morphin Masters were mentioned like once in the show, and then they've been made use of in the comics multiple times, and they're tied into the lore of the morphing grid, more so again in the comics based off of a one-note mention. But ever since that one mention in the show, they haven't really been heard of much in the show until Dino Fury, in which they were shown full-on, having a very similar design to in the comics, and they are responsible for giving the Dino Fury Rangers their original powers. Now, this theory video is about whether or not this may tie into the comics, and I'm not talking about the fact that they use the Morphin Masters design and the comic story of the past, but currently in the Power Rangers comic, the main Power Rangers comic focusing on the Omega Rangers, they are delving into a story that's going to deal with sort of the origins of the Power Rangers world. And when they first launched the Power Rangers and Mighty Morphin comics, and like the individual ones, they talked about how there was going to be a storyline delving into the origins, which would change the Ranger world forever. And I actually kind of forgot about that because there's been a lot going on in there. But in the most recent issue as of this recording, which was issue 5, they started to delve into that a little bit. And they mentioned, sort of alluded to the Morphin Masters. They had this flashback talking about this guy from Edenoi that studied the past. And he talked about how like the original ones created these messengers, which are implied to be the emissaries. And the emissaries are sort of like the Morphin Masters' assistant to the regional managers. They kind of were messengers for them, and they flashed between all the different Ranger colors. And then it was kind of implied that the original ones might have been the Morphin Masters. Now, I was a little bit confused by that personally, because based on the information we had so far from the, I keep wanting to call it the Necessary Evil arc, Beyond the Grid arc, it seemed like the Morphin Masters weren't like gods of the morphing grid. They were kind of like people that studied it and sort of became pseudo-gods. Like, that's just using my own language, but you know what I mean. Like, they weren't born as like deities of the morphing grid. They were people that studied it and then became these powerful beings as a result of it. But this makes it seem like they were there from the beginning. That will probably be clarified. That's kind of not what this video is about. This video is more about, I find it interesting the timing that this may be delving into more of the origins of the Morphin Masters right when the Morphin Masters are put into Dino Fury. Now, I want to start by saying I kind of find this to be unlikely that there would be a huge tie-in. Dino Fury definitely surprised me in a lot of ways, especially with the Morphin Masters, but I find it fairly unlikely that this would be a huge tie-in that would be really rewarding if you watch the show and read the comic, or you feel like you'd be missing something if you didn't watch or read one or the other. I just thought it would be a fun thought exercise to think about how it might be tied into. So I just want to say right off the bat, I do think it's unlikely it would be really deeply tied in. Like, you know, with comic events where you'll read something, it'll say, you know, see issue whatever for this, or, you know, you'll feel like you'll be missing something one way or the other. But I think it could be kind of a loose tie-in, meaning that it could be something, if you watch Dino Fury and stuff we find out about the Morphin Masters down the line, could somehow enhance the stuff we learn about in the comics, and vice versa. I think that could be pretty cool if they did that. You know, I don't think it's gonna be, and I really hope they don't contradict each other, because I don't even know if they're corresponding or anything. I know they talked a little bit about looking the designs of the comic ones when they designed the Morphin Master suits, but I don't know how much correspondence they're planning. I just found the timing to be kind of coincidental, which made me think there might be just like a little bit of a bonus to this. Like, for example, once we delve into the origins in the comic and learn about how the Morphin Masters work and whatnot, and then we learn about what happens in Dino Fury, like, they could line up in the sense that it creates kind of an overall larger picture, but you don't feel like you're missing a piece, and I think that could be a really cool sort of subtle tie-in that's like neat for people that are experiencing both, but it wouldn't be too in the weeds, because I especially don't expect it since Dino Fury is targeted at the younger audience. It would also be cool if, you know, you're watching Dino Fury and the stuff we learn about the Morphin Masters there seems to line up with some of the logic and the inner workings of them. Like, I just find it kind of fascinating, because we're going to possibly learn about how they set up the emissaries, and I find it interesting that in this case, the Morphin Masters personally intervened with the Dino Fury Rangers. I don't know if that's going to mean anything, but I think it would be really cool if it's somehow tied together. I'm just not sure how. If this evolves, I might do more videos on it in the future if we learn any more information. But like, again, it's just such coincidental timing. I thought I would bring attention to it to see if it would happen. And again, just to repeat myself, circling back to the beginning of the video, I don't think it would be a thing where it would sort of act like a tie-in comic or anything. Like, right now, the Astronema Ecliptor Power Rangers Unlimited comic is kind of tied to the Power Rangers one, and you can read them alongside each other and they're kind of companions. I don't think it'll be like that. I think, if anything, so long as they don't contradict themselves, it could just be an enhancement, creating an overall bigger picture of everything. Kind of like, in a way, the Master Morpher. You know, that you could see the Master Morpher in Dimensions in Danger, and you can see it in the Soul of the Dragon, and one way or the other you wouldn't be confused, but it was kind of cool that they were both there, and Dimensions in Danger kind of set it up. Same thing with like the JJ mention. That was like a small little thing. Something like that. It would be really cool if both of these series worked together to give us an overall understanding of the Morphin Masters that felt like it was a little bit cohesive, but wasn't too confusing. Because again, I don't expect them to do anything too big. Guess I wouldn't expect Dino Fury to tie more in, and thinking about it, maybe the comic would. Like, as we get more into the origins and whatever they do in this, there could be stuff that alludes to directly or indirectly to the Dino Fury stuff. Like, I don't think they're going to take time out to do some Dino Fury origins in the Power Rangers comic, but I think that given the comic is more for the people that are into the story and lore, that would be more where the connection could be reinforced and you could learn more, and whatever's Dino Fury is doing on a basic level could be enhanced by the comic, maybe setting up the details more of what they're doing. I think that could be kind of interesting. Like I said, because of what Dino Fury is targeting, I don't see them feeling more like a tie-in, but it would be cool if what the comic is doing enhanced the Dino Fury stuff, if that makes any sense. And that way it allows Dino Fury to sort of do the broad strokes for the audience that doesn't care about that. But then if you read the comic and watch it, it'll make a lot of sense as a big picture. But what do you guys think? Do you think that there might actually be some sort of a tie-in with this that's a little bit loose to give us an overall picture? Or do you think it's a coincidence? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can see my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.